Hello and welcome to A Deadly Silence. I'm your host, Larry Curtis, and it's the goal of all of us associated with our program to bring you current and educational information surrounding the alcohol and drug epidemics, not only throughout the city of Brockton, but throughout all of our South Shore communities. This evening, we're pleased to have with us Ryan Morgan, who is the new principal of Independence Academy, one of 4 recovery high schools here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, which happens to be located here in Brockton. Ryan, welcome to our show.
Thanks, Larry. I'm happy to be here.
New principal. This must be an exciting opportunity for you personally.
Yeah, it is exciting. I was approached by North River Collaborative to interview for the position, and at first I wasn't really familiar with the concept of recovery high schools or really what entailed, or what the job entailed, I should say. But as I went through the interview process, sitting down and talking to the interview committee, the job became more and more appealing, and it's been great since. And I've really enjoyed, getting to know the world of recovery.
Welcome aboard. And for our viewers' understanding, Independence Academy is one of 4 recovery high schools in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We have one recovery high school in Boston, one in Salem, one out in Springfield.
Yep.
And Independence Academy became the 4th recovery high school, which was really the result of a lot of effort from not only our current mayor, Bill Carpenter, who was a school committee member at the time, but many of our local elected officials as well, in response to getting a recovery high school here on the South Shore. It should be noted that although the school is located here in Brockton, it is a regional high school that is funded by the Department of Public Health that services 4 counties here in the Commonwealth: Bristol, Plymouth, Barnstable County, and Norfolk County as well. So I'm assuming there's, well over 100 potential educational programs that you're capable to draw from?
Yeah, definitely. It's a school that is really regionally based. It's here in Brockton, but the intention really is to service students from all over the South Shore, Southeast region. So,
and when we talk about servicing the students, for the parents out there who are watching, I think it's important for them to know that in the event that a member or a family member who is a high school age student should somehow, unfortunately, become involved in drugs, maybe get some addiction issues that may have to be confronted, and may not be able to stay within their current school program, that they are allowed to basically ask for the student to be transferred to a recovery high school. In this case, if it's on the South Shore, it would be Independence Academy. Is that currently correct?
Yeah. If a student prefers to take a different route coming out of treatment, or someone that's struggling with substance abuse or addiction, and they want to not be in the environment that really is maybe having an impact on their use, they are by law allowed to attend Independence Academy, and there certainly is a financial obligation by the sending district to Independence Academy, but it's nothing above and beyond.
Yeah. So although the school itself is funded through the Department of Public Health as it looks at the clinical aspects and care of the student, the educational component would still be the responsibility of the school district that the student would be coming from. And as we all know, funding in education is tight everywhere, and obviously that funding would follow that student.
Sure, and that's exactly what it is. Just instead of the funding going to their sending school, it comes to us, and is okay. Some other schools, the way they work, it's a larger amount that goes to a school like a collaborative school or a special area type of school, but it's not the case at Independence Academy. We just get the per pupil expenditure.
I'd be curious to kind of walk through the process as in identification of a student who may have a behavioral issue. Let's call it that for the time being. Typically, in the school environment, a student, some type of behavioral issue is identified. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, I'm assuming that student is pulled aside, whether it be a guidance team in the school, the principal of the school, the family member. At some point in time, there has to be an identification of whether that behavioral issue is the result of a substance abuse issue. Is that kind of the process that we're looking at here?
You would think. I can't speak for all the districts,
Right.
but this is the background I'm coming from, is working as a public school administrator, working at high school and elementary levels. There's this kind of uncomfortable discussion that people don't want to have about substance abuse within schools, and when students start to kind of pop up on the radar, whether it's behaviorally, academically, attendance-wise, things like that. Everybody wants to have the quiet conversation that, there may be some substance abuse issues, but it really doesn't go much further than that. Schools really don't want to delve into, a more in-depth assessment of that.
Well, there's certainly a fear, I'm going to call it a fear, that school districts don't want it to be known that there might be a substance abuse issue within the school, let alone within the community.
Sure.
That the school resides in, because there's certainly, some, implications that follow that type of connotation out there. Housing values, property values might be diminished and so forth, and, if you're thinking of relocating to a community and you hear there's a substance abuse issue, you it may be the card that tells you not to go to that community at some point in time. So it is kind of a tough situation. And, I know that I'm a parent of two children that were in high school that, became involved in a heroin addiction issue myself. So I certainly can speak from experience when I say this, is that, a lot of times the schools will work with the parent and to have the parent go through their healthcare provider to find some type of treatment or direction for the addiction issue itself, And obviously that hasn't worked for many, many times, thus the implementation of Independence Academy down here in the South Shore.
Yeah, again, just going back to the funding issues, I think, schools look at, where they're going to spend in their terms, the very small amount of money that they have, and, they're cutting educational programs and extracurricular activities and things like that. And I think when issues of substance abuse arise, it's easy to say, that's not really our, area of expertise, and they, it gets pushed off. So I think the identification, of those students is critical in the schools, as that's where the schools, or that's where the students are seen the most. And then from there, there maybe should be a phone call to maybe an expert that's not necessarily in the healthcare field, but maybe more in the education field.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk a little bit about your programs that you offer, because I'm not sure, if there's a misconception that they're going into more of a clinical type of environment or a kind of combination of educational/clinical. Tell us a little bit about the program.
Yeah, when I was applying for the position, I would say at the end of my interviews that, at the end of the day, I'm running a school, and the goal of Independence Academy is to help students get their high school diploma. The students that we're trying to help, however, have addiction issues and have history with substance abuse. So in order to get them to that end game of their high school diploma, we need to incorporate more resources and supports than a typical high school would be able to. So we do have a full-time recovery counselor that works very closely with all the students. In a group setting, in individual settings, we do random drug testing at least twice a month. So we do have those aspects of the clinical kind of setting. However, one of our main focuses is still academics, and the students are expected to, be in school on time, be in class, participate, be prepared, work at a level that is, of a high school standard. Mm-hmm. We have students that take courses through Massasoit that are, upper level courses that they want to take for, particular entrance into college or something like that. So, they all have to meet the graduation requirements from their sending district. So if a student were to come to us from Brockton, we don't set our own graduation requirements. Mm-hmm. We work with Brockton closely, and the guidance counselor at Independence Academy speaks with the guidance counselor or guidance staff at Brockton High School, say, and they work together to make sure that student meets the graduation requirements from Brockton High School.
So there's a collaborative effort on the part of Independence Academy and the local district to ensure that the educational requirements of the district are being met. And when that student graduates, they actually graduate with a diploma from their district school, as I understand.
Correct, yeah. And the hope is
Yeah.
that there is a very strong collaboration between our school and the sending schools. Frequent conversation, regular updates, things like that should be essential components of our program. And, I think that that's something that we're working towards. I think everybody's, on staff is really of the same mind, and that's a critical piece. So we're working towards that. And, it's certainly a hope that we can have a very open, collaborative relationship with our sending districts. Only then will we feel confident that they're going to refer students to us when the need arises. They'll know that we're a quality school, kids are getting a quality education, and also getting the help that they need for their other issues too. So,
let's talk a little bit about logistics, because obviously a challenge of the school of this magnitude supporting the South Shore region. Do you offer transportation services? I mean, obviously, how does a student get to Independence Academy, particularly if they're coming from any of the outlying communities that are out there?
Sure, yeah, the number one question. Transportation is right now, I think, one of our biggest roadblocks. We don't transport the students to and from their home, in the morning and in the afternoon. There's a couple of different things that we can offer as a school, and that's we offer a van pickup. North River Collaborative has a transportation department. We have staff members, teachers on our staff that are licensed 70 drivers that can transport pupils. So we do pickups at the Abington train station, at the Brockton train station every morning, and drop-offs every afternoon. So parents that can get their students to those different commuter rail
connectors, yeah.
Right. We'll pick those students up at the train stations. Some districts will transport students, particularly students on educational plans, and their IEP. Transportation is certainly a component of the plan that's going to help that student meet their educational goals. So we do have a couple of districts that transport students. Some students walk. Some students ride their bikes.
Yep.
Parents pick up and drop off. So it's
a combination of a lot of logistical challenges out there for sure.
Yep.
But basically the issue is, if the student is in need of these special services, we want to be able to find a way to get these students to those classes. And I'm sure as part of a planning board that you're constantly reviewing those opportunities. How do you get to reach out to the outlying communities to get those students to come in?
Yeah,
as well.
It's a goal to really look at the transportation issues and try to see who we can work with and what we can do to make us more accessible. The students are out there. We need to help them find us and help them get to us. So certainly a big challenge.
What's your capacity for a student population for the school?
I would say safely right now, between 40 and 50 students.
40 to 50 students?
I would say, as the principal of that school, I would be comfortable thinking of the building setup and the logistics of students moving around. I would say we could handle 40 or 50 students in the space that we're in.
And this school year is, I believe it's the fourth year of classes, because you've had 3 graduating classes out of the campus, I believe.
I think it's. Yeah. I don't know that we've had 4 full years because we started in.
Yeah, 3. I mean, you've had 3 graduating classes, so you're starting like your fourth. Your fourth session, so to speak. And as attendance incrementally increased, are we seeing?
It has increased, and that's a,
it has increased.
Tricky word, because I think when they opened their doors, they had a couple of kids, a couple of students, 1 or 2. Right now, we're at 11.
11, okay.
Which is alarmingly low. We started the school year with 9. And we've taken in a few students, and we've got a couple other students who are going through the intake process right now. And so, at first that number jumps out at you as, we're really missing the mark somewhere. I did meet with the other recovery school principals on Wednesday morning, and everybody across the board is really experiencing lower than normal enrollment numbers. I don't think that they're experiencing 11 students or 12 students, but they're taking a hit. So we're trying to put our heads together as a group of principals to figure out what we can do, to try to increase that. However, working for the past 14 years on the South Shore in education, I certainly have never heard of Independence Academy, and I'm 2 towns over, and I know that a number of my friends who are also in the same area.
I testified in support of Independence Academy back several years ago when it was on the drawing board and going through the legislative process for approval. And, one of the, and I follow Independence Academy faithfully every year as to what's been going on. So one of the concerns that, I've had is that, what is the marketing? I mean, I want us to take a sales marketing approach perspective,
sure,
okay?
Yeah.
To have a school of this magnitude and the services that it offers, and yet not be, as you mentioned yourself, you've been an educator in the South Shore for how many years, and you weren't even aware of it.
Yeah.
What is the marketing issue here? I mean, we're missing the beat somewhere.
Yeah, we are. And, for me, it really comes down to developing a relationship with the sending school districts, getting them into our building, going out to see them, and really creating that level of comfort with our school and what we can offer. Really, as a staff, getting out there so that they know what we can offer, and helping them. Going back to your first question, when they're hitting, a roadblock with a student, and other. We don't measure drug abuse in public education. We measure attendance, we measure behavior, we measure grades. When those things start to come up, there needs to be a closer look at drug abuse or substance abuse issues. And so it's trying to find a way into schools through that route, trying to provide them with the tools necessary or with the training necessary to either do a quick screener and feel comfortable doing it, knowing that their name's not going to be on a diagnosis or something, and then just letting them know to call us. And we should be their next call as soon as they start to have concerns. So it's really that. It's the PR. It's hopefully building the relationships with the district, and this, word of mouth, getting out there that we're running a quality program and that people are happy with what we're doing.
Now, one of the hurdles that I was made aware of early on is the kind of the literature that you promoted out there when the school opened up, is that they were looking for students to be basically cleaned for 30 days prior to enrollment or admission. And as a parent, I'm sitting here, well, if my student's been identified with a substance abuse issue, how is he going to be clean for 30 days? Has there been any rethinking of them? You mentioned you met with the other principals. Has there been any rethinking of that concept? Yeah,
I think one of the good things about the recovery schools right now is that we're doing things differently. I think if everybody was doing the same thing, there isn't any comparative data to look at. So, I think with everybody following a different model and following different, admissions requirements and things like that, we can kind of compare and contrast numbers and techniques and things, and try to come up with the best practices. As again, when I was interviewing, that question came up about the 30 days clean and all that, and I certainly said it was something that I think we should look at. And I think what we're looking for from students is just a commitment to recovery and a commitment to sobriety and a commitment to their academics and their diploma. And so if a student comes to us and they're 5 days sober, but they're struggling because they're in the middle of it, and Brockton High School every day, at Rockland High School, Abington, Whitman, Hanson, Marshfield. They're in these high schools in the middle of it every day, and they want to get out of it. But as soon as they go back to school and they're with their friends, it's, all happening again. If we can help those kids come out of that environment, 5 days clean, that are saying, I want to be clean, I want to be sober, I think I need to be here in order to get my 30 days, we're going to take them in. So the admissions process and the intake process really involves in-depth interviewing with staff members where they gauge a student's level of commitment to their sobriety. So I think that's the real point that we want to look at. Not an arbitrary 30 days, 28 days. Insurance companies put these numbers in our head, and then we want to stick to it. But anybody who's 30 days clean is still just right there. That's not a whole lot of sobriety
Right.
either. So
Correct.
5 days, 30 days.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head when you mentioned just a minute ago, is that the student has to have a commitment to sobriety
Yeah.
and want to pursue that sobriety, whether it's 5 days or 30 days or whatever you said. Because as we see in the addiction arena, nobody's going to help the addict but the addict themselves.
Right.
You know, so I think it's important for the parents out there to realize, in order for their child to succeed in a recovery environment and continue their education, there needs to be that commitment on the part of the student. It can't just be the parent pushing the student.
Right. Yeah. And I think we see that all over the place, whether it's academics or sports or recovery.
Right.
The student has to be committed to that, and so it's a huge piece.
Absolutely. What do you see going forward? I mean, you're new. You have a rude awakening, I guess. Not necessarily that. But what do you see going forward in relationship to the program at Independence Academy?
I certainly see enrollment increasing. We're certainly not at the point that we could be at. The facility is, as I walked around the facility as part of my interview, I was blown away by the technology that's there, the equipment that's there. We have a lot of audiovisual technology, video equipment, editing equipment, and things like that. There's a computer lab, iPads, laptops. We subscribe to an online learning E2020 Edgenuity program that provides us with some elective courses and really gives us some good stuff. We get a science lab that we can really get a lot of good use out of, a lot of good science equipment. I think the board and the people who put that program together really put a lot of thought and detail into it. And, as I said, it's a school that could certainly, in my own opinion, comfortably hold 40 or 50. So, we have the facility there. We have a great staff, licensed teachers, English, science, social studies, math, 2 licensed counselors, a nurse, myself, an administrative assistant that works part-time. So we have the infrastructure there. It's just really finding the students that are out there and I think more importantly, helping them find us. I see a big social media presence, really trying to create that so students can find us. Really working closely with the South Shore principals. I'm attending a meeting Wednesday morning with them. I've asked to be put on the agenda for some time to speak about our program. Working with the South Shore Guidance group, which I was a member of when I was a guidance counselor at Whitman Hanson High School. And just really kind of getting out and talking to these different people in the communities and in the South Shore. I'm meeting with the Brockton High School administrative team next Monday morning as part of their regular Monday morning meeting. I've asked to join them, and they're definitely looking for me to get in there. So, in terms of building the program, enrollment, I feel like we've got everything in place right now in terms of structure and staff. It's just getting out there and getting the numbers and finding the kids and helping them find us.
Well, we've built the school. Now let's get the students in there now to make it, kind of a field of dreams. Build it,
That's
and
right.
they will come.
And I believe that.
Yeah. And it's certainly a need out there. There's no question, as we see every day out there, more and more of the heroin epidemic, the overdosing and addiction issues that are out there, that it's certainly something that's well needed. And, I hope that every parent who has a student in high school, that may be dealing with the substance abuse issue, goes to their principal, goes to their guidance team and says, I want to know what this Independence Academy is about and how it might be able to help my child. Because in the opportunities I've had to talking with the educators, and you mentioned the Brockton school system as well, is that every one of those educators, from assessment counselors, guidance, to principals, to the administration, they have never once wavered against the fact of whatever's in the best interest of the student is what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Irregardless of the funding aspects as well.
No, and that's been in my time working in public education, it always comes down to that, and everybody always says, "Hey, whatever the students need, and whatever's best for kids is what we'll do." So, with that mentality out there in the building and the program that we have, it's certainly a recipe for success.
Yeah. And to kind of just clear up what might be a misconception on the part of our viewers out there is that Independence Academy is funded by the Department of Public Health. It is not part of any public school system that is out there today, but it is sponsored, by the Department of Public Health.
Yep.
Your curriculums are, in sync with each of the community schools out there, and that you are actually managed under the North River Collaborative. Tell us a quick summary of the North River Collaborative.
Give you a quick summary of the North River Collaborative? The North River Collaborative is an organization of communities around the South Shore that is, they provide educational programming, professional development, therapists and direct therapy providers to districts around. And I guess the concept behind collaboratives is if we can all kind of get together and pool our resources, it'll be a cost savings in the end for all of us. So North River Collaborative oversees, I wouldn't be able to name all the towns, but Hanover,
about 10
Bridgewater,
10 towns out of the South Shore.
Yep.
Right, yeah.
And so they were approached, I think, to kind
manage,
of oversee this.
to manage
And
the
Brockton, again, really is just a geographically kind of strategic placement of the school. So
Absolutely.
yeah, we're not attached to
Right,
any one specific school.
And the school is located on Belmont Street, actually on the fairgrounds.
Yep.
It's 490 Rear Belmont.
460
460
Rear.
Rear,
Yeah.
close.
You might be right.
Yeah, 460 Rear Belmont.
Yep, 460 Rear Belmont.
Yeah, on the Brockton Fairgrounds. So it is accessible through public transportation. But
Certainly
again, it's for those, it's easy access off of Route 24.
Yeah, right there.
So the logistics of bringing that transportation piece was part of that siting opportunity, as I understand.
Yeah.
And under the collaborative, the school has an advisory council that meets periodically to kind of, move the programs forward.
Yeah, certainly talk about issues like transportation enrollment and just try to come up with ideas for, how we can improve in those areas.
Right. And those members are made up, some of them are from the different school districts, I understand, as well?
Yep. Different school districts, community members, stakeholders.
Yep.
Yeah.
So on down the line. Well, this is fantastic. If you have a vision for yourself a year from now, what's that vision look like?
It's interesting. Everybody, the decisions I'm making today aren't for tomorrow, and they're
Right.
not for next week or next month. They're for next year and 2 years down the line. I see Independence Academy really, they're opening another school in Worcester, another recovery school in Worcester.
Yep.
I really see Independence Academy working with the other recovery schools, but I guess if I'm being honest, I'd love for people to come to Independence Academy to try to see what the model is that we need to use in order to start, our program and to be successful. I want to see, unfortunately, there's a need out there, but since there is a need, then let us, meet that need. I want to see large graduating classes. I want to see full classrooms. I'd love to see a great, really well-rounded education for students, things, going on outside the community, really breaking down the four walls and having lots of experiential learning and things like that.
Right.
So, I'm hoping in a year from now that our enrollment's up to, 30, 40. I know that's a really lofty expectation, but, I really have some pretty good ideas, I think, that are going to help us get very close to that number, and I'm looking forward to that. And I do just want to plug our after-school program that really is, for the parents that you're talking about and for the administrators that, aren't really sure what to do with students yet. We run a 4-day program for students who have either been in trouble for a substance abuse-related charge or a substance use-related charge, possession of drugs in school or, intoxication at school or a school event. And it's a 4-day program run through Independence Academy. That Monday is an after-school, 3:30 to 4:30, AA, NA Young People's Meeting. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are an educational component that really is aimed at trying to identify, educate, and connect with students who are popping up on that radar.
So it's an opportunity to come down and see the benefits that Independence Academy can give to the students who might be dealing, and as well as the families who are dealing with substance abuse. We're out of time, unfortunately, Ryan. I want to thank you for being here. Ryan Morgan, new principal of Independence Academy. He's a resource. How can they contact you real quick?
You can contact me at Independence Academy, 508-510-4091. And that's that'll get you right into our administrative assistant.
All right, perfect. And on behalf of all of us here at A Deadly Silence, thank you for being here, and we'll see you next week. Hello, and welcome to A Deadly Silence. I'm your host, Larry Curtis, and it's the goal of all of us associated with this program to bring you current and educational information associated with not only the alcohol, but the